I have a podcast on Pisces rising, and Pisces rising is such an important podcast because I believe it has helped a lot of people. Because, the way that I describe Pisces in that podcast is meant to go to the heart of the matter of what Pisces really is. And so what I'm going to do in this podcast is to rehash some of that, but within a new context. And the context I want to talk about is the context of divine protection. Now, when I mean divine protection, I'm not talking about something that is very mystical, because people tend to look at Pisces as something that is very mystical, and there's a reason why. Mysteries are the things that we don't understand. The word mystical comes from mystery, mysterious. And it is a breakdown in the extension of the type of understanding that we're trying to use to probe that area. So that Pisces really represents a singularity in the nature of human understanding. And singularity are points, for instance, they're mathematical points where the equations that are used to construct the framework of understanding within any particular field, those equations break down. Their axioms can no longer be extended beyond a certain point. And that point of least explanation is known as a singularity because nothing is known there. So within Einstein's general theory of relativity, black holes are the singularities. But singularities are mathematical things, really. Usually you have a singularity when you try to divide by 0. Such a thing is not allowed. It cannot be done, right? So that represents a mathematical singularity in this instance, because you cannot extend the framework on the axioms of arithmetic into that area. Okay? Now, Pisces represents a type of singularity for human understanding, because nobody knows what Pisces really is. Nobody knows what it is meant to be. And so in this podcast, when I talk about Pisces, I'm also talking about the nature of Neptune, because Neptune rules Pisces, and then the nature of the 12th house, because the 12th house would naturally have Pisces on its cusp. So it is designed to expect what Pisces actually delivers. Okay? Now, what is Pisces? Like I said, nobody knows what it is, because it represents the last stage in the evolutionary cycle that began at the 0 degree of Aries. Now, in Pisces, knowledge becomes so complex. It becomes so integrated, the entirety of it fuses into one, so that it can no longer be separated. One thing cannot be differentiated from another in Pisces. So that in Pisces you have the highest expression of cognition, the highest expression of what it means to be intelligent. But it is not something that you can use in the everyday world. Why? Because the everyday world that we have requires contrast and discrimination to understand. So that if you want to understand up, you need to understand down. If you want to understand light, you need to put it within the context of darkness. It is from this type of contrast that we're able to develop constructs that we can use in the everyday world, especially in the creation of tools. Pisces does not allow that type of discrimination. There are no divisions within. So everything is packed so tightly that it blends into one. So Pisces represents the last stage of unity that began in the sign of Cancer. That is, the tendency of things to merge together. It begins in the sign of Cancer, it takes on a certain quality in the sign of Scorpio, and then we see the amalgamation of everything, the integration of everything in the sign of Pisces. That's really what it is. So that in Pisces, the easiest type of cognition that we're able to extract from that is a sense of unity. Because imagine a reality system where everything is blended into one, meaning that you cannot separate it. Now, the way that the physical senses work, like I've said earlier, is that they aid us in that discriminatory process. They build into that discriminatory process the ability to discriminate one thing from another. Okay? The ability to contrast one thing from another. There's such a thing is not really possible in Pisces, because when anything goes into Pisces, any placement that you have in Pisces, what the Piscean function is always trying to do in your cognition is to blend everything together, so that that thing simply has no boundaries anymore, so that its structure, its inherent structure dissolves. And so the way that you behave in that area is you try to connect everything to everything else. So you come across as a bit weird and different when observed from a mundane point of view. That is, from the point of view of the everyday reality and the everyday cognitive function. The person comes across as a bit weird. Why? Because when they try to explain the nature of anything, really, all they do, that is, for instance, if you have Mercury in Pisces, all they do is try to connect everything to everything else. And so people look around, what's this person really talking about? I have no idea what they're saying. And because of that, they are unable to separate one aspect of their communication from another. Okay? So they can't really recall what they said or what they did or whatever. Simply because everything seems to be blended into one. So every time they try to use their minds, for instance, all they see is that singular structure and they don't know what it is. Because Pisces is not a place where you actually know what it is. Hence the nature of mystery. The nature of mystical or mysteriousness. That's why nobody knows what Pisces is. We know what happens when things are in Pisces, but we don't know what the Pisces is precisely. And the little that I know that I'm sharing with you is because I know what Aquarius is. And Aquarius is that complexification. That is, it is the tendency of knowledge to become so complex, alright, that everything begins to blend into everything else. It represents a refinement in knowledge that is so high that from that perspective, everything you can see represents the idealized form of everything. That's really what it is. But when the movement goes further into Pisces, then everything is literally jacked up and ramped up to a point where all the ideals blend together into oneness, into unity, into wholeness. And as a result, the individual, based on another part of their cognition, a part of our cognition that is not really developed yet, all it can do with that perspective is to intuit a connection between everything in the universe. And from that connection between everything in the universe, it intuits a type of intelligence. Everything is so grand, connected together, there must be a reason for all of existence. And this is the gift of Pisces. This connection between everything in the universe, this so-called divine intelligence. So that anything in Pisces, we don't see how it goes. Because the understanding in order to track the dynamics, to trace how it evolves beyond the complete idealistic state of Aquarius, we no longer see how it goes. And when we cannot see how anything goes anymore, it appears mysterious. Now, the human psyche doesn't know what to do with mysteriousness. Because the natural tendency is when something is not understood, the natural tendency is to probe it. And in Pisces, all the traditional methods of probing, they all fail. So you're looking at Pisces and you have no idea what to do with it. And yet you must deal with it because it represents part of the 12. Really, what is part of the 6? So, because it is part of the 6, because like I said, the signs come in pairs, really. Okay? They have the horizontal pairing and they have the oppositional pairing. Okay? So, in the horizontal pairing, Aries and Taurus are paired together. But in the oppositional pairing, Aries and Libra are extensions of themselves, really. So, Aries is the individuated personality in terms of the identity, self-identity. Libra is the projection of that identity into the world. But you see, astrology doesn't code for such things. That it's not really identity. It is what you think of yourself. And that is built on your deepest, earliest memory. Okay? And then in Libra, that is what is being projected into the reality. So Libra is what you call your external reality. While Aries now represents an internal state of awareness. In that same vein, you can look at Pisces and Virgo as one of the same thing. Virgo is the preparation for what? Relationship with one other person. A relationship with another. Pisces is the preparation with the divine. Everybody. So that you see that because Pisces represents the last stage of the mutables, really. The mutables are preparations. That's what makes them very important. That all the placements that you have in mutables, they're really just preparations for something else that happens in the adjacent sign going forward. So that's really what Pisces is. Pisces is the preparation for the unknown. The thing that is being perceived intuitively, which is the divine intelligence that unites all things in existence. Now, you have no proof for this. You can intuit it based on the fact that the part of your brain that has become complex enough to be able to match this highly idealized form of Aquarius is only able to stare into this Piscean experience of reality without knowing what it is. But from that staring, it can intuit a connection between everything in existence. So, it intuits that if everything in the universe can be connected together, then there must be a divine intelligence or some type of strategy or mechanism that connects everything together. And when human beings feel this, they become very uplifted. It allows them to prepare for the great unknown of death, the end of life. Usually, old men begin to think about this or old women, when life is coming to an end, they begin to think about what lies beyond. And when you begin to think of what lies beyond, matters of preparation occupy your mind. legacy. That's really what it is. That's why the Piscean can be thought to be a preparation for endings. And people who have these in Pisces very early in their natal chart, either rising or from house 1 to 6, or Neptune in the lower half of the natal chart, they struggle with this because these are not early age understandings or cognitions. So that you don't really know what to do with it. As a young person, you're growing up, you want to take your place in the world or find your place in the world. But by internalizing these extremely high cognitions in the early part of your formation, what does that even mean? You don't know what to do with it. It gives you the interpretation of self-transcendence. Basically, you want to abandon the entire physical world. But that usually comes at the end of life. But then you have it early and you don't know what to do with it. It creates a certain type of difficulty. It is designed to create a certain type of difficulty because that difficulty is necessary elsewhere. In natal chart synthesis, everything fits into a pattern. Everything fits into one message. So natal chart synthesis itself, apart from being an Aquarian type of knowledge, because it's astrology, the idea of synthesis is to bring everything together in one coherent whole, one perspective, one movement, a universe. Uni means one. A singular narrative, a singular song, which now becomes the essence of why you are here. Now, usually, anywhere you find Pisces, Neptune, or even placements in the 12th house, there's a reason, apart from all of this I have just described, because, synthesis. There's always a reason for everything. Alright? There are no bad or good placements. There are no difficult placements, really. They can appear difficult when you consider them in isolation, and then they appear difficult. But the general idea is that they fit into other parts of the chart. That difficulty is needed in order to actualize the potential that is carried as the natal. Because every natal has a promise. And the promise is constructed without the notion of good and bad. It's constructed based on necessity, what is needed. And you, as an individual, once you find yourself on this planet, you are a product of necessity. Don't let anybody fool you. Don't let anybody deceive you. You are not a random accident. You are here by design. And I can prove it. That's the whole point. And if I can prove that you are here by design, right? That means that the family you were born into is also there by design. That means that the earth that you are born on is also by design. That means the solar system is also by design. That means the Milky Way is by design. And that means the universe is also by design. It is this conundrum that modern day scientists call the fine-tuning problem. They scratch in their heads. How the hell can this be? How does everything just seem as if it is naturally assembled to accommodate us, to deliver us? But modern cosmology doesn't believe in that type of thing. They believe that everything is random. Things are just chance. Everything is homogeneous. Everything has symmetry in it. We just happen to be here by some type of fluke accident. Okay, you can believe whatever you want. Beliefs come a dime a dozen. They can never produce any evidence for that. And so that's why they invented the multiverse theory. Because obviously there must be other realities where everything is different. We just happen to find ourselves in the one reality where everything is the same. And I have a podcast that says, look, there ain't no damn thing as a multiverse. The multiverse is you. That's really what it is. Okay? There's a reason why people are thinking like that. Let's leave them to that. Okay? Back to the nature of Pisces and the reason why I'm actually making this podcast. It's because when you have Pisces, Neptune, or even placements in the 12th house, something is being hidden. Especially when it's in the lower half of the natal chart. It has become necessary to hide certain aspects of your cognition from you and from the rest of the world. Why? Because that place is extremely essential to the fulfillment of the natal promise. Now, how does Pisces do this? Pisces does this by being what it is. You don't know how anything goes there. The dynamics are so complex, nobody can actually trace and track its trajectories. So what it does is that Pisces, Neptune, and the 12th house, they have a tendency to multiply the potential trajectories for outcome development. Now, think of trajectories as road networks or logistical networks. And think of how they become very complex. Imagine if you think about the metro system in the London Underground. Some people might describe it as a complex thing, but it's not complex. It's complicated. There's a difference. Alright? Now, when the creator wants to hide a particular part of the plan for your natal promise, he hides it in Pisces, or he places Neptune there. And the result is that when you look in that area, all you see is confusion. You don't see how anything goes. In that area, you are amorphous, you are nebulous. You lack understanding. You confuse even yourself. Your behavior is not what you think. You plan to do this way, and then you end up doing something another way, and you begin to beat yourself up. Why? But there's no why. That's exactly how it has been programmed. Because if you knew what you were doing there, you'd destroy the whole thing. And if you can't see it, nobody else can see it. And that is the nature of the protection. And because it's Pisces, you envisage it or you intuit it as some type of divine protection. You are designed to make errors in that area. The errors are necessary. The errors are designed to create a multiplicity of pathways so that nobody, not even you, can see exactly how one thing is becoming another thing. And in that way, you are protected. Usually, there are other parts of the natal chart that support this strategy. But the only reason why you need protection is because that is the area where you are most likely to be what? To be attacked. To be disrupted. That's really what it is. That's what makes natal... See, the natal story proves a supreme intelligence. Nobody designs things. You don't even have patterns like this being designed by your most advanced supercomputers. Like I told you, astrological variables, when you're considering natal chart synthesis, there's no supercomputer that can deal with it without the heuristics. You find the heuristics in the 5 principles of organized complexity, which is where all of this came from. So if you understand what I'm saying, or you like what I'm saying, it's not your traditional astrology. This is not coming from your traditional astrology. I'm not a Hellenistic astrologer. I'm not a traditional astrologer. I don't know what those things are. My astrological understanding comes from the study of complex systems, because it's the study of your brain and your mind that it generates. And it's coming from the 5 principles of organized complexity, which I wrote, which is my book that I published in 2011 and 2020. It's a science. It's not a religion. It's not based on say-so. It's not based on fantasy. There's a physics underlying it, a physics that proves things. It doesn't speculate about things, it proves things. And that is very compelling, isn't it? Because that is the nature of conviction. Conviction is dependent on evidence. And it is convictions that sculpt reality. Okay? So where you have Pisces is where you are designed to behave in that manner, because you are dealing with the unknown. Where you have Neptune, you're also dealing with the unknown. So don't beat yourself up that you do things that you don't understand, or strange things happen to you in that area, or people tend to look at you as someone that is inconsistent because you don't really know what you're doing, or you appear very tired and weak and you appear dreamy and all that. That's exactly what is expected of you. It's necessary. That's really what it is. And there are certain placements that are so unique, certain configurations and patterns that are so unique that when you see them, you give a kind of sigh in terms of, if you can see this, you wouldn't look at the world the same way anymore. Because how can this be random? Look at this. Look at the strategic placement of everything designed to deliver a particular perspective, so unique. A pathway through the featureless landscape. A divine intelligence, a supreme intelligence that is guiding your steps, even when you don't know where you are going. Even when you don't know what is happening, there is an unconscious part of you that is fully aware of everything. You're not just allowed conscious access to it, because if you can see it, everyone else can see it. Okay? So be kind to yourself where you have Pisces, Neptune, and placements in the 12th house. Because apart from astrology telling you that there are hidden enemies there, and they're this, and they're that, and they're this, okay. For those people, I don't have anything to say, because as far as I'm concerned, I don't subscribe to any of those things. You know, the funny thing is, I don't even call myself an astrologer. It's very strange, very weird. Every time somebody refers to me as an astrologer, my ears always pick up as if I'm hearing it for the first time. I actually have to be reminded that I do astrological natal chart synthesis, because from my perspective, from where I'm sitting, that's not what I'm doing. You see? And who can blame me? Because I don't look at these things this way. I don't look at things as, hidden enemies or whatever. I understand that they may have 1 or 2 rationales for thinking like that. And maybe it works for them. But that's not the way that I see things. I cannot see things in isolation like that. That's why these individual placements, these podcasts, talking about individual placements, they're kind of difficult for me to make. Okay? Because it's not the natural tendency I have to see things that way in isolation. Because there is no isolation. That's really what it is. So the feeling that you have of being self-sacrificing, being confused, being sort of like otherworldly, or against the material world, or having this loftiness within your cognition, because you have Pisces there, or being dreamy, or being very intuitive, or being very imaginative, or being very mysterious or mystical, you have to understand that one of the more significant reasons for that placement is divine protection. Because things that find themselves in the 12th house, for instance, they are rising at the hour of your birth. Like placements in the 12th house, they are rising. So they're extremely powerful. The problem is that you cannot really use them until a certain time, you know. And the reason why the time lapse is needed is because you don't even know that they're there. They're so deep in your unconscious that it is only the unconscious aspect of you that can see them. Other people can see them in a sense. They see you as that in some sense, but you cannot see it. There's a reason for that. And the reason, very often, I mean, there are deviations to this, but very often the reason is to protect that aspect of your evolution. So that instead of one pathway, or even a complex pathway of interlocking trajectories, right, becomes so complexified, so multiplied that it results in confusion deliberately, so that you can't see how to proceed in that area. Okay? Nobody else can see it either. And so it remains safe until it is ready to be revealed. That's how it is. This is the work of a supreme intelligence, the type that I describe as the behavior of the prime signal. So if you haven't seen my video, my podcast on the prime signal, it's membership only on my YouTube channel because I say too many sensitive things in there. Those videos, they come in 3 parts and they're very long. But I say too many sensitive things. That's why I placed it in the membership only category. It's only if you truly want to hear these type of things that the act of paying money to hear them means that it is your choice. Okay? That's really what it is.